All right, let's talk about something completely different right now, because absolutely extraordinary scenes at the hearings yesterday into the contamination scandal of blood, infected blood scandal, which we've been hearing from the most senior politicians so far, and that is the former Prime Minister, Sir John Major. And he gave evidence yesterday and made some comments which I thought were absolutely extraordinary, and they not unreasonably prompted gasps of horror and amazement from those family members listening. He said that those who'd been affected by the infected blood scandal, and bearing in mind up to 30,000 people were infected with HIV or hepatitis C from contaminated blood, the biggest treatment disaster in the history of the NHS. Thousands have since died as a result of that. He said that it was incredibly bad luck that those people had been infected, and he was justifying why his government and Margaret Thatcher's government did not provide compensation for those people. Well, let's talk to Jason Evans. He's founder of Factor 8. That's an advocacy group for the victims of the infected blood inquiry. Good morning to you.
Morning, Julia.
Jason, your response to what Sir John Major had to say.
Yeah, I mean, as you point out there were gasps of horror in the hearing room yesterday. I mean, look, I think it is easy, and I was one of the first ones yesterday to be critical of John Major for saying that. But to me, I think, the deeper thing behind that is I don't think, he was maliciously lying when he said this. I think it shows just a complete lack of understanding and education about the scandal. I mean, if you look at the evidence the inquiry's heard over the last 3 or 4 years, to put this down as bad luck is just wrong, as well as being in bad taste.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. This wasn't sort of, oh my God, we had no idea, and this infected blood was given to these innocent people who came in, who were haemophiliacs and people who had operations, and they got it, and we had no idea. And the moment we knew about it, we did something about it. The reason why there is this inquiry is because it was very likely that blood would be contaminated. It was blood that was imported from the United States in the 1780s, often bought from prisoners, sex workers and drug addicts who were paid to give their blood. It wasn't properly tested. It wasn't. Cursory checks would have shown that they were at high risk of HIV and hepatitis C. And once they knew that it was happening, there was then a grand scale of cover-up to stop this becoming exposed. And even worse, they continued to give blood they knew was likely to be infected to people being treated on the NHS. I mean, it's criminal is what it is. I mean, it's basically manslaughter as far as I'm concerned.
Well, look, we saw a great example of exactly what you're talking about just a couple of weeks ago when former Health Minister, now Lord John Patton, gave evidence to the inquiry. And he was shown a copy of a letter from early '83. So this is, 2.5 years before these products ceased to be in use. Yeah. And that letter was sent by the UK's most senior epidemiologist working at the Communicable Disease Surveillance Centre. He sent a letter to the Department of Health saying these Factor 8 blood products, which is what we're talking about, these pooled, highly mixed together blood products imported from the United States, he said they should be withdrawn from use until the risk of AIDS had been clarified. So they knew that they were high risk. The minister was shown that letter. He said that he never saw that letter, but if he had, he would have pressed the panic button. Those were his exact words.
And what year was that?
That was in early '83, so 2.5 years after that date, these lethal products were still in use.
Yeah. I mean, it is absolutely extraordinary, and so many families. I mean, I've seen mothers, giving evidence who've lost their children infected in early years, and then dying in their teenage years. And again, this was at a time when HIV was a death sentence. It would invariably lead to AIDS, and the treatment was was very, very, very sparse, and not the sort of treatment we have available where people can live for many decades, live a completely normal lifespan. I mean, what do you think is going to come out of this? Because a lot of people are saying also his evidence wasn't really very forthcoming. And we have seen Andy Burnham. He described the scandal as a criminal cover-up. He's the former Labour Health Secretary, and I have to say, all credit to Andy Burnham on this. He has actually spoken out on this. But this is not the first. I don't think it will be the last sort of scandal we've got in the NHS, where whether it's about what's happening at maternity hospitals or heart operations, things like that, where when a problem is identified and people come forward, management don't listen, the health department doesn't listen, no one listens, no one wants to know, and everyone tries to cover it up, and the people who speak out are the ones who are castigated. This happens again and again, doesn't it?
Well, I think one of the reasons why is, that's what you just identified there in relation to HIV and treatment. Of the 1,200 or so people that were infected with both hepatitis C and HIV, one of which was my own father, there are about 200 of those people still alive today. The vast majority died by the mid-90s because, as you say, there was no effective treatment. And so you end up in a situation where the state, somebody, has to now turn around and say, actually, we've got, 1,000, 2,000 people dead because of the actions of the state. And look, politicians find it difficult enough to apologise over the most minuscule of things, let alone, 2,000 dead people. And let's be clear, this isn't people, going out and happening to pick something up.
That would be incredibly bad luck, the term John Major used. But when the state gives them a product supposedly to help them and help save their life, which is actually killing them, that's not incredibly bad luck. That is a massive failure by the state. I'm so sorry for your loss, but all credit to you for being a founder of Factor 8 and actually standing up for your other family members as well who've lost loved ones. Really appreciate you joining us, Jason Evans. Thank you very much indeed. A quick word from Alex Dean on this. This is such an abject failure of the state, but it's also an abject failure of the NHS. The people who are meant to look after us, we're supposed to do this worship over the sacred cow of the NHS, and let's all clap. How many different stories do we need to hear about abject failings? Mistakes happen. People make mistakes. The first time you realise there's a mistake that happens, if I make a mistake, the worst thing I can do, right, is libel someone on air, right? And an Ofcom complaint. We could get fined. I could go to court. But no one's going to die as a result of the mistakes I make. If you work in a field where some people will die if you make mistakes, why would you not want to rectify that mistake as soon as possible, Alex?
The NHS does some things well and some things badly. And that is a statement of heresy, it seems, in modern culture, where we're supposed to treat the NHS as if it's some kind of national religion. And actually, that's greatly to the detriment of patients, that attitude. It's also to the detriment of the NHS itself, because it prevents proper examination of what it does. You might find in one given year that we do cancer well and we do heart disease badly, and then another year vice versa in the international league tables. But people refuse to accept that there can be anything like statistical analysis, proper evaluation, improvement in treatment. You have to say everything's fantastic in the NHS and all is well in the best of all possible worlds.
It's sort of 1930s Russian, pig iron production, tractor production up 4,000%.
No criticism is permitted, and that's actually terrible both for patients and for the NHS
and when we say terrible, it's not just, we won't make a profit this year for a private company. It's people will die.
Sure.
That's what it comes down to.